Embark on an epic journey through the pages of history as Homer's timeless tale comes to life on the silver screen. Brace yourself for the breathtaking assault on Troy by the united Greek forces, where destinies collide and legends are born. Directed by the visionary Wolfgang Petersen, this cinematic masterpiece boasts an all-star cast featuring the unparalleled talents of Brad Pitt, Bana, and Orlando Bloom. With a stellar rating of 7.3 on IMDb, this is not just a movie, it's an immersive experience that will leave you spellbound from start to finish. Don't miss your chance to witness history unfold before your eyes. Join us and be swept away by the grandeur of Troy. The story happens in the rich, eastern terrains lined by the Mediterranean Ocean and kept by the divine beings. Inside the support of old human advancement, realms are fabricated, wars battled, coalitions fashioned, and legends conceived. Agamemnon Brian Cox, Lord of Mycenae, has joined the majority of Greece's realms subject to his authority and presently progresses his military upon the country of Thessaly, expecting to remember it for his assortment of always developing successes. Lord Triopas Julian Glover deals with Agamemnon to each let one of their best contenders conclude who wins the fight, as opposed it in his collection of ever-growing conquests. King Triopas, Julian Glover, bargains with Agamemnon to each let one of their best fighters decide who wins the battle rather than engaging in open war. Triopas calls upon the giant Boagrius, Nathan Jones, while Agamemnon calls to Achilles, but the legendary warrior is nowhere to be found. A messenger boy, Jacob Smith, is sent to fetch him, and Agamemnon curses the stubborn nature of the fiercest warrior Greece has ever seen. A half-god and blessed with incomparable strength and skill, Achilles lives to fight, but he refuses to associate with Agamemnon, preferring instead to seek his own destiny and be immortalized in history. Achilles easily defeats Boagrius, sealing Agamemnon's control over the nation, and calls out if there is anyone else worthy enough to fight him. Triopas offers the scepter of Thessaly to Achilles to pass on to Agamemnon. Achilles refuses the request and stalks off. Meanwhile, Prince Hector, Bana, and Paris, Orlando Bloom, of Troy feast in the banquet hall of King Menelaus of Sparta, Brendan Gleeson, as honored guests and peace ambassadors to their home nation. However, young Paris sneaks away to be with Menelaus' beautiful wife, Helen, brought to Achilles' hut as his prize. She berates him for killing priests of Apollo before he is summoned to see Agamemnon, who is preparing to celebrate the victory. Their tensions rise as Achilles and the king argue over claims to the victory. Agamemnon goes further by bringing in Briseis, claiming her as his own spoil of war, enraging Achilles. He threatens to fight for her, but she angrily interjects, saying that no one else will die for her. Achilles stays his blade, to the surprise of Agamemnon. Achilles vows that Agamemnon will one day fall under his sword. That night, Priam seeks the advice of his advisors and elders with his sons in attendance, discussing how best to defend against the Greeks. Paris offers an alternative: the winner will take her home and the loser will burn before nightfall. Later, Priam speaks with Paris in a courtyard and admits that, in all the wars H has fought for power or land, a war fought for love makes more sense. At its founding and containing the history of their nation. He explains that as long as a Trojan wields it, there is hope for their people. Hector goes to see his wife and son. She fears for his life and can't imagine living on without getting up to see his brother. In the halls, he sees a cloaked figure and gives pursuit to find that it's Helen trying to leave the city. She is remorseful for being the sole reason so many Trojan men died that day, but Hector tells her that returning to Menelaus will not end the war and that she is a princess of Troy now. Helen returns to Paris. The next day, Agamemnon's army marches for Troy while Achilles, Menelaus is clearly stronger. Paris, fighting under his brother's advice of waiting until Menelaus tires, is wounded and disarmed, but, before Menelaus can deliver a death blow, ducks away and crawls back to his brother. Stunned at his cowardice, Menelaus demands the fight to continue, but Hector defends his brother and drives his sword through Menelaus, killing him. Enraged, Agamemnon charges forward with his army. Watching from his hilltop, Achilles curses under his breath at Agamemnon's inability to keep his ranks in formation. Hector proves to be the more able warrior and overpowers the Greeks with his tactics. One of the strongest Greek warriors, Ajax, Tyler is felled by Hector. Odysseus advises Agamemnon to fall back before he loses his entire army, and the Greeks retreat to the beach where their archers provide defense. With Menelaus dead, the primary reason for the assault on Troy is gone, and Agamemnon struggles. Odysseus suggests that Agamemnon put his reservations aside and enlist Achilles to fight again. Outside, Briseis is tossed around between Greek soldiers, having been given to them by Agamemnon. Before she can be cruelly branded, Achilles steps in and takes her back to his hut. He gives her a wet cloth to clean with and some food. When she questions why he fights and defies the gods, that night, Briseis takes a dagger and holds it to his throat. Without opening his eyes, he encourages her to kill him, but she hesitates. They realize their feelings for each other and make love. Achilles decides that he's had enough of war and offers to take Briseis away from Troy. Afterwards, he speaks with Eudorus and tells him that they will go home. Patroclus is devastated, having hoped to take part in battle. Achilles returns to his hut. Just as dawn approaches, the Trojan army, led by Hector, set up on the dunes and sent hundreds of lit arrows into the sand. The Greeks awake in time to see large balls of hay being rolled down the hill towards camp, ignited in huge fireballs by the torched arrows. Banging their shields to intimidate their enemy, the Trojans advance towards the Greek camp. Suddenly, Achilles appears in his armor and rallies the troops to fight. Achilles fights his way towards Hector and the two engage in combat. Greeks and Trojans alike surround them, edging him on, until Hector slits Achilles' throat with a swift slash of his sword. Achilles falls, gasping for breath, while the Myrmidons look on in horror. But when Hector removes his helmet, he discovers that the man he wounded is not Achilles but Patroclus. Hector, repentant but resolute, drives his sword like